Gemma?
It's the sequel to the runaway smash horror hit of 2022, so is Smile 2 a solid follow-up, or was it a disaster that was just inevitably waiting to happen? Join Coop, BP, and myself Justin, as we discuss the larger-than-life sequel. This is the Complete Guide to Horror Movies podcast. Smile 2 stars Naomi Scott as Skye Riley, international pop star and Yas Queen, who unfortunately witnesses a shocking death. This leads to the Smile curse to be transferred to her, taking over her life with dire consequences.
Really?
Smile 2 was written and directed by Parker Finn, who also wrote and directed the first installment and the short film Laura Hasn't Slept.
I have just the thing to help you sleep.
Stay away from me!
With the supporting cast including Kyle Gorner, who returns from the first Smile, Rosemary DeWitt, who plays the Mummager, you might also know her from the Poltergeist remake.
They're here. Don't go in there! Oh, I told your dumbass not to go in there!
And Lucas Gage of The White Lotus and Euphoria fame, plus a cameo from Drew Barrymore.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
I said Smile 2 is bigger, bloodier, and has more shocking scenes and jump scares, but there's both positives and negatives to this sequel. And joining me are Cooper BP, of course. Now, I gotta say, for my overall thoughts of Smile 2, I did like this more than the first one, but I also felt that this should have been the original Smile. I think it makes the first Smile just looks like absolute shit. And I know we had very different opinions about the first movie. I mean, I gave it 8.6 out of 10 for some reason. That score has now gone down to 4 out of 10 for the first Smile movie. So we are doing our first ever reverse score, or whatever you want to call it. But I just had so many problems with Smile 2.
It's because you're a horrible person.
Off the bat, it's a lot more polished. It's cleaner. I think it was directed a lot better than the first one. I just think the trade-off meant fewer thrills and the ending was pretty bad.
Throw it out!
I appreciate the story. I really like the story. I like the pop star kind of thing and what happens there.
Don't know what she's saying. I didn't know she sang. I thought she rapped or whatever.
It's hard because the first one, I know I had mixed reactions, but looking at the two, I feel like the first one comes off better at this point. Smile 2 is not too far behind. I wouldn't say it's bad. I just don't think the hype and what it was getting just lived up to that. I think it was, a bit of a simmer.
I think not!
I agree. I think the first one was better. It was almost not exactly a carbon copy, but it was just the same thing again on a grander scale with a bigger audience. And I thought that was kind of lazy. As soon as the character that had inherited the curse was famous, I was like, well, I know how this is going to end. She's either going to be on like a news thing or it's going to happen on tour and everybody's going to get it. And I feel like it leaves them no breathing room or room for growth. Because what's next? Smile in space? Like it's, I don't know. Like, it was. I don't know where they can go with it from here. Like I didn't think when I watched the first one, I didn't think they should have made a second one, but they did. Here we are. It's just it's just bigger, bolder, and less impressive. I thought like it's almost exactly the same. I thought the first movie was better at showing the sort of psychological plight of the main character. I feel like it played more into that, and that's really the scariest thing about the movie is the whole all these things are happening that only I can see, and it's just making me look like a lunatic and just feeling so alone. And I feel like the first one did that. I understand why they did it with the protagonist being a famous person, because there's sort of a level of loneliness. Anyway, which is cool, whilst all eyes are on you, but you've got no room for yourself. I do like that.
Yep.
But I don't think it added anything to it. I don't think the scares were better. It was louder. That's cool. But I'm a firm believer that a good scare isn't a loud scare. That's not what it's about. And I felt like every jump scare in this was just turn the volume up. Like, I don't know, like it was just very unimaginative.
He does get spooked by loud noises.
Loud? That's our secret word for the day!
You got a Drew Barrymore cameo, that's cool, I guess. But like, yeah, overall, really didn't think much about it. It was just, keep the dollars coming in.
Yeah.
When I saw this, my first thought was, oh, this is essentially Jump Scare the musical. Like, and I know, like, I just felt there was so many jump scares, but then, that's where
I will confess I did jump like once or twice because I think it was just loud as well. And just
exactly.
It's hard for me to talk about favorite parts because for me, a lot of this sequel rides on the acting ability of Naomi Scott, who of course stars as the lead as Skye Riley. I think Naomi actually does such a phenomenal job considering the script that she's given. Do I believe that she's this famous pop star? Absolutely, because she conveys all the different emotions and experiences. She even does some of her own like little twitches and things like that to really signify things like substance withdrawal or just like going through a tough time with all the pressures of fame and this world tour and her mum and everyone just being on her back 24/7.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like that's where my favorite part does stop.
Yep.
I will admit there are some scare sequences in this which I think, oh, whoa, okay. Like there were some of the jump scares which I just felt were just lazy. Even when she's like laying in bed next to her best friend or whatever, and suddenly her friend turns into the car horn and it's just loud. It's like, oh, okay, that was scary. But it was only scary because it was loud. And in the screening I was at, the audio was turned up so fucking loud that it actually pissed me off.
Yeah.
I thought, does it really need to be this loud where I have a pounding migraine after? Or, there were parts where it was like slower sequences and then there was a jump scare at the end. And it's like, okay, it could have been more of that slower suspense build. Like when the crazed fan or the appearance of the crazed fan breaks into her apartment. You see him naked at the end with the weird fucking smile, which, by the way, the smiles were never ever scary in the first place. But so I don't know why there's more of them in this fucking sequel. But then, like, they could have, or like the scene behind me with the whole voguing thing that they were doing. Like, what's the time, Mr. Wolf? And then, like, she keeps turning around and they're just like, and it's like, okay, we get it, but also, like, I did like that, some sequences like that, and then it would just get ruined by, like, or whatever, with a fucking needless, lazy jump scare.
There were quite a few cool camera sequences. There's one that I really liked where she was in the elevator, and then she went to the ground floor, and it turned into the ground floor, kind of like it was like a panning shot. It's hard to explain. I think she got in it and it went down, but the camera kind of followed and then it went into a different scene of like an overshot of the ground, which was really cool. I thought that was cool. I liked that scene in the bed. I don't know if it was the sound that got me, but I liked the visual that came out, like it might be like Scooby-Doo, right? The eyes and the mouth. That's what it reminded me of. I liked that. I didn't mind the scene you've got in your background more where, when she's sort of panning around, they're all slowly starting to move like spiders.
Yeah.
Like after the hallway scene, I thought that was really cool. Sorry, I'm just going on my phone because I wrote it all down here. What else did I put? Like the dance sequence, I guess, is kind of cool. But then I'm not here to watch a pop star sing. But like that whole performance, the actual full song, like halfway through, was like the red visuals and stuff looked really cool.
The theme of my dance solo is aid work in Africa. So it's like about all the kind of bad stuff I'm going to see and like me like stopping child slavery and just healing people and stuff like that.
And then I also, the visuals of Luke, is it Lucas with the plate?
Oh, yeah.
When he smashed you're on Coop actually. When he smashes the plate. And then I didn't think they would show it because in obviously the trailer they don't, but then they actually did show I think the third smash and his face was just completely... Thought that was really gory.
Really, Marcia? No.
It's hard because I want to talk about some of the bad points where it could have been good points, but it just felt like off. But before we do that, Coop, what were your favorite parts, if you had any, of Smile 2?
I agree. The gore of like the weight plate was quite good. Naomi Scott does as good a job as she possibly could in this movie. I thought she did really well in the scene where she thinks she's in the freezer and it's her like evil self, but her a year earlier when she's in that car crash.
Yeah.
I thought that was really creepy. That was sort of one of the better smiles in this. And I also think Ray Nicholson, Jack Nicholson's son, did a really good job of the smile. Also a negative part there because he had some lines in the movie that'll be in my dislike section. But he does the smile so well. But again, he's Jack Nicholson's son, so that. I don't mind I thought it was quite pretty to look at the scene that's in your background, Justin. That was kind of cool. Again, not scary, but it was very visually pleasing to look at. I was thinking that if you took some of the more visceral parts of this movie and made a music video, it'd be a really good music video. But that's not enough really to sort of make up for the rest of it being a full-length movie. So.
Bad shit in her head.
There was also the scene where she's talking to her mother after she's hospitalized and she thinks everything's fine. Then the demonic entity takes the form of her mum and starts stabbing herself with the glass shard. I don't know why that's been stuck in my head all week. I was just like, fucking hell, that was not intense, just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something disturbed me about that scene with like the eye gouging and shit like that. I was just like, wow, okay, that's going to be an image in my mind.
I don't have inner voices.
You are the middle child, aren't you?
Middle child? Don't you mean Marcia Brady's little sister? Wait a minute, she's just trying to help. Help? Wake up. She's just looking for an excuse to bring up Marcia. Marcia, Marcia, Marcia.
Yes, I'm in the middle.
Least favorite parts. First off, fucking hated the ending so much. It ruined the entire movie for me because everyone could guess as soon as this was announced, from the poster to the trailer, that was what the ending was going to be. She would kill herself in front of the audience, attendees, or whatever, and then it just limits any sequel if they were to do a Smile 3, or it'll probably be Smil with E turned into the 3. And I was just like, I was just hoping for something different, especially because, like, at the start of this movie, you have what's his name, Carl Gorner's character Joel, and I thought that would take an inspiration from Final Destination 5, like you kill someone, you win back your life or whatever. So I thought that was the direction this was going to go in, especially the whole, we'll stop your heart for 8 minutes in a freezer, and then the entity will die, and then you'll be fine. I thought it was just going to be going in a different method where maybe this demonic entity or something latches on to her assistant or something else where the protagonist does everything right, but then something else happens and it would have driven the story forward. Instead, the whole thing was, from an unspecified point in the movie, everything was a hallucination. And I'm like, that's exactly what happened in the first movie, where she thinks she escaped the house and burned it down and whatever. And then the monster at the end with her face on it, and I was just like, come on. It was just so pathetic. And then my main gripe with this movie is that I could tell that there are some parts where either, the director Parker Finn or screenwriters, let me check Wikipedia. No, he wrote the whole thing as well. No shock. There were some new ideas, but then he never actually expanded on. Like, there were some big sequences that were copy-paste. Like, there were even some of the jump scares were copy-paste too. Like the one scene in this movie where the guy's showing her the phone footage, and Lucas Gage's character is like, do you see the guy standing in the corner of the room? And then it's a jump scare of him screaming at her, which harkens back to the original where she's listening to the audio file, and then it's just the Caitlin Stacey's character being like, Rose. I'm like, that's the exact fucking same jump scare. Come on. Like,
Look, I just said about the runtime. It's interesting. Like, I don't feel like this movie needed to be this long. I can understand the first one maybe to understand the concept of Smile and everything behind it, but this one really didn't need to. So it was just a long movie. And like I said, there were just bits where not a lot was happening. And then it sort of got repetitive maybe at a halfway mark with just the sequences that were happening. I was kind of like, we've just seen this, like it's not really adding anything new. I thought the opening was pretty weak. I don't know if they're trying to do something with the car tire where it kind of looked like a smile. I don't know if that was intentional. I just kind of rolled my eyes when I saw that because I was like, that's so cool. Like creative. Like Jerry Bruckheimer or something. And then Drew Barrymore couldn't give a shit about. I prefer, like, God forbid, like Jimmy Fallon or something like that. But the Drew Barrymore thing, I don't know, it just felt like that was something to get people to go and see it because it's in the trailer. I get what they're doing, trying to harpen it with something that's current, that's someone, that talk show, but couldn't care less. And then, like I said, fewer thrills, failed to sort of move it forward in any way justifiable to warrant a sequel. And then the ending was just kind of dumb because, like, I know like what they were doing. Well, obviously she's got the microphone and she's jabbing herself, but you don't see that. You just hear the visuals, and then you're just looking at the audience, and that just looked like, come on, like we got this far and you can't even bother to show us till like the last shot, and that's it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You go all this way to kind of like tease us, and then we get to that. I don't know. I just don't think it moves the game forward for this. If we're going to call this a franchise, I hope there's not a sequel. And like Coop said, like, where are you going to go with it? You're just going to be like Smile 3, The Next Generation or something.
Yeah. I mean, so
yeah. So I think just overall, it was a lot of hype. I think the production wise on that was really great, and the trailers did a good job, but it didn't pay off.
Yeah. And I mean, talking about this movie in general, so I attended the Smile 2 premiere, which was at South by Southwest Sydney, and the director was in attendance, and he gave this presentation before the film started where he was questioned on his inspirations and why he made the sequel, blah, blah, blah. And he said that when he was approaching the writing of Smile 2, he didn't want to do a carbon copy of the first film. And then he went into how it took him months to think of like an exciting opening and an exciting ending that wasn't predictable. And the entire time I'm thinking, oh, okay, so this isn't going to be she kills herself at the concert. It's not going to be Kyle Gordner's character dies in the opening. And then those things happen. I was like, what was he thinking? Like, what was he talking about there? Because that doesn't match what was presented on screen. Likewise, I just felt that the ending ripped off Truth or Dare, which is the shirt you're wearing. Like that in Truth or Dare, which we covered in a previous episode, which was actually versus Smile as well. Like their deal, Truth or Dare, has this curse or whatever now infecting everyone worldwide because they made a viral video.
The game is real. Tell the truth. Do the dare or you die. Refuse to play. You die. It can happen anywhere, and it can come from anyone. I'm so sorry, but I have to ask you. Truth or dare?
And in this one, I'm like, okay, so now all the concert attendees, and including anyone watching the live stream or whatever, is now cursed. Like, are they going to explain that in a potential Smile 3? But honestly, I don't think this movie will make enough money to justify a sequel. The first one made $200+ million, riding on the post-COVID wave. This one had a budget of $28 million, and it's projected to make $20 million in the opening weekend. But we're going by patterns of horror movies released this year, etc. It might recoup its marketing budget because they might have spent like $40 to $50 million on marketing for this. So it would have to make $70 million worldwide to break even. I don't know if they will.
Well, guess what, Mimi? We did.
Like I said, it very much felt like a cash grab, and like they've just upped the ante on the first one, but not in like an interesting way at all. Like it's basically the same story except that it's a famous person. That's pretty much it. As I mentioned before, I was giving props to Ray Nicholson for his smile in the scene where she's doing the charity event. But I thought the scene where it's a flashback to how the car crash happened, that was some of the worst acting I've seen in a while. It was just ridiculous overacting. Like it felt like, and I feel bad because, obviously it's like Jack Nicholson's son, but it felt like he was doing like a bad Jack Nicholson impression. It was like, oh, this is just silly overacting for the sake of overacting. I thought that was particularly, I don't use the term lightly, but cringy to watch, which was unfortunate. Like I said, as soon as I realized the curse was a famous person, because like I didn't watch any trailers or anything, like I avoid them like the plague. All I'd seen was like footage of people being hired to smile at premieres and things like that. That's all I knew about it. I also didn't know Drew Barrymore was going to be in it, and like you mentioned, it didn't really add anything to it. It's just like another famous name to bring to it. I guess it looked okay, but like the scares weren't very good. Like I said, it was just a very loud movie. At times it looked cool. There was some okay, like the initial what's the character's name? The
Skye
ketamine
Riley?
dealer? No, the ketamine dealer. The one in my background.
Bergalo something. Hold on.
Yeah, something like that. I thought that was a like pretty decent sort of gore for the movie. He did an okay job at the smile, but I honestly don't think anyone has topped Caitlin Stacey doing a smile.
The worst smile I've ever seen in my life, and whenever I see it, I just get this god-awful feeling like something really terrible is gonna happen.
Out of the two movies, that opening scene is probably still my favorite part about this franchise, if we could call it that. And I'll reiterate in this, like I did in the first one, if the whole premise of a movie is this smile, do a fucking good job at it.
Yeah.
And they just didn't. It was laughable a lot of the time. The demon voice thing, oh my God, it's like a bad Jigsaw impression. I hated it. Yeah, not scary. Quite a letdown. Like I said, I didn't like the first movie, but even like the first movie has like jumped up a level after watching the second one. It's just this. It's almost a carbon copy, but just they're famous, so everybody gets infected. Like fuck it. I don't know. So
it's funny because I just saw something. I think it's in the demon scene where it reveals itself. I don't know if anyone caught it, but I saw it at the movies. Where you remember the first scene where she knocks on the car door and then the head comes down.
Yeah.
Same thing happened with the demon scene. The head kind of comes on the side and does the same sort of angle. And I picked it was a very quick shot, and I don't know if it was intentional that they were trying to like do the same thing. And I was like, I've seen this.
Thing is, with the demon at the end, the shot of where the demon is, like her evil self, Skye Riley's evil self or whatever, it's the extreme close up of like the bloodshot eyes and everything. I thought, okay, that's actually kind of cool. I like that this is the manifestation of this demonic entity or whatever. And then they ruin it at the end by having like the demon being like 5 times as big compared to what it was in the first Smile movie. And then it kills her on stage. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Great.
and it was like I feel like the ending ended like, was it Sinister that we watched that time, and it had a dumb ending and it just went to a black screen? I feel like it was, I think this one had a black screen ending, like it just like a abrupt ending, and that was it. I'm like, yeah. I think Sinister had it with something looking back at the screen. I think that's what it. That's what it wasn't Sinister.
Jump scare.
Yeah, and I went, come on, yeah. And then like loud pop music to like up the ante for the credits and like. Okay. One other thing I'd touch on quickly is I didn't really like the forced product placement and use of Voss and the obvious use that it was going to be part of it later on. Because I was like, I guess she's a celebrity and like Voss water is a thing still apparently, but like the constant dehydration to grab a bottle and scull it, and I'm just thinking like, just have a water bottle in the fridge or something. Like, I don't know. It was constant Voss. And I was like, this is going to happen. Something's going to happen with this. I can tell. And then there's like, half a bottle on the bench. And then I was like, let me guess. Something's going to happen. It's funny.
It was going to be, sorry.
Oh no, because someone put a thing saying there was an obvious product placement. And then I was trying to think, and now I've just realized it's Voss, if that's what it was in the film. Yeah.
I was actually
You know what I
thinking
mean?
as I was watching it, like, did Skye Riley have to like
Spit it out.
no, like not Skye Riley, that's the character's name. Naomi Scott have to like practice. All right, can I very quickly like get an entire boss bottle down? Like they probably would
She's
have shipped her a whole box. Like, oh, here you go. I'm going to practice
yeah.
like anxiety-induced drinking. Like she did a good job of it. I'll give
I
her
think
that.
she
Like it was
did
almost
in
fun
one
to
scene.
watch.
Yeah. I think she did in
Yeah,
one scene, Scarlet. That's how I looked at it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Like what I don't understand about the whole boss water thing is that maybe that paid for some of the budget of Smile 2. I don't
For
know.
sure.
But
yeah.
they could have just easily had glass cylinders, like a regular voice bottle. Like
Yeah.
a regular like water bottle, something for her to drink from. But I thought the way they were going to approach the jump scare or whatever was have it so that maybe she's drinking vodka instead of water in one scene.
Mm.
Because like the whole thing is like, oh, I can't touch drugs, I can't
Yeah,
touch
yeah.
alcohol. I thought
Yep.
that's where they were going with it. Then they didn't. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
I
Yeah.
thought I was thinking that there might be like a death related to the water bottle or the glass or something like that. But then I was like, considering its product placement, they wouldn't want any kind of negative connotations to do with the brand.
True.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Voss. It's what's on the inside.
But speaking of that water bottle sequence, that actually is part of some trivia for this movie. The way Skye deals with her drug and alcohol cravings by chugging glass bottles of moss water in one scene was not done with any kind of VFX. But the actress Naomi Scott actually doing it herself, and she said it's really hard to down a bottle of moss. I guess I didn't anticipate how uncomfortable that would be. So
There you go.
I wonder how many times she had to do that take as well.
I think the other thing is because it's glass, you've got to make sure you get that take of hitting your mouth right, that you don't like hit your teeth. So for her,
Yeah,
probably like,
yeah.
yeah, it's not like it's a plastic bottle you can.
Yeah. Plus, like the reflection with like all the cameras or any nearby
Yeah.
stage crew.
Yeah, there was a mirror shot. Did you see that where she checked the cupboard and then the mirror closed? I think she looked in it and it shut and it went to the camera, but you didn't see the camera. That was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Or like even like in your background BP where like there's obvious shots where it's angled in a different way, so it's not showing
Yeah.
her directly in the mirror. But then there's one, it's a very brief shot where it's showing the point of view, not her point of view, like behind her. So you see her looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did they do that? Like obviously it's something with VFX, but
Yeah.
some other trivia for the movie. So Kyle Gallner was, of course, the only actor to reprise his role from the first film. And of course, he passes away at the start because he gets hit by the truck. The scar on Skye's knee is in the shape of a smile. I didn't actually pay attention to
Never.
that. Her haircut in this movie, not inspired by Halsey like I thought. It was actually inspired by Kristen Stewart, who previously worked with Naomi Scott in the Charlie's Angels reboot. I haven't seen it.
Ah, Becca. Why don't you take the empty seat next to that mysterious boy you're destined to have a fatalistic relationship with that will spawn 4 books and a movie franchise?
This is the second movie where Rosemary DeWitt, who plays the mother, has starred in ads featuring a creepy smile. So the first one they're referencing is a 2015 remake of Poltergeist, which has the clown doing the creepy ass smile. Now, Skye's friend who commits suicide in this movie is named Louis Fragoli. That's his name, Louis. Now, I didn't know this. The Fragoli delusion is a rare disorder where someone believes multiple people are actually the same person in disguise, which is how the smile entity operates as seen in the first film.
Okay.
And apparently this is only the second time, this is the second time a character played by Naomi Scott has performed at Madison Square Garden. The first time was when Naomi Scott played the character Mohini Banduri in the 2011 film Lemonade Mouth. Yeah. But, I mean, this is also the second horror film this year that has featured a live pop concert. First one being Trap by M. Night Shyamalan, but that Trap movie, what I didn't understand about it was they kept leaving the concert every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like, how many times are you going to go visit the lobby? And how long is this fucking concert going for? Is it the Eras tour? Like, even Smile 2, where she's rehearsing, and then something happens and she trips and falls backstage or whatever. I was like, how long has she got to rehearse at this one specific venue? Because a lot of pop concerts these days are very, like, you rehearse in a studio, which they do show in some parts of this movie, but you don't get like 2 or 3 days beforehand to rehearse at big venues like Madison Square Garden. Often you arrive at the day on the venue and you get very limited time to do a sound check. So, But anyway, that's just some bugbears I have with it. The director, Parker Finn, as well, during his opening presentation at the South by Southwest premiere, spoke about how when he was approaching the writing, yes, he didn't want to do something that he felt was in the same vein as the first movie, but he was really inspired by certain pop stars and how they've spoken about the loneliness of fame, which is something he wanted to explore for this movie. And if he didn't explore it in Smile 2, he was going to develop a separate project. Maybe he should have saved it for a separate project. I don't know. We'll soon see. But Parker Finn as well signed a deal with Paramount Pictures, so I guess he's more going to be typecast into doing horror films. So if he does break out to do drama or comedy or any other genre, we'll soon see.
Compound fracture, punctured lung, bashed in brains. Smashy, smashy, die, die, die. Crunchy, cracky, smacky, wacky, all that's left is best friend pudding top with asphalt depth. Hey, crashy, smashy.
Naomi Scott, who played Skye Riley, actually released an EP called Smile 2, the Skye Riley EP, which I imagine would be the songs featured by, performed by Skye Riley in the movie. So that's pretty interesting that it wasn't just a few different pop songs that she like lip synced over or whatever. It's actually her music. That's commendable. That's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, for our fans who like people like Natalia Kills or like that dark pop, more 90s, 2000s style, it actually is a really good EP. But also, I'm someone who unashamedly likes Britney Spears and Gaga and all that stuff. So unless you don't like that, you won't love this. But for me, the music was actually felt like it did come from like a genuine pop star. M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, on the other hand, I know that his daughter, I think, played the pop star in that movie, but it just felt disconnected. Like, yeah. And I know his whole, like M. Night Shyamalan has said that Trap was inspired by what if there was a serial killer at a Taylor Swift concert? And it's just like her music is a serial killer.
That's a cop out, and I'm just like, hey, are you okay?
Last but not least, when it comes to ratings and final thoughts, so I have this strong view about Smile 2, which is if this was the first Smile, I would have given it a bigger score. But because it's a sequel to Smile 1, both movies drag down for me. So I actually view Smile 1 in a lesser light in most parts, but then some parts of it I'm like, oh, okay, it did do better than Smile 2. So I'm going to give Smile 1 a reevaluated score of 4 out of 10. And for Smile 2, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. I do think it was better than the first one, which I know does not match what you both think. So, yeah. BP, what are your ratings and final thoughts?
Yeah, I was trying to think what I scored Smile the first one. I feel like it was really paltry and controversial compared to your scores. I feel like it's like 4.5 or 5. I think 6 is a good level, more just because it was polished and cleaner, and yet, so like the scares were, the thrills and that weren't there. The plot was just had some baggage in it. It was a long run time, but it was cleaner. I don't know, spritzier looking sort of thing, but it didn't move anything forward. So I wouldn't say like it's a bad movie or bad sequel. I just don't think it really added much, but I think 6 is generous. They're very generous, I should say. Yeah, let's do 5.5. 5.5 sounds good. 5.5.
What about 5.6?
5.6. Skid marks out of 10. Yeah.
Nice.
Bloody skid marks. Yeah.
And Coop, what is your ratings and final thoughts?
So actually, I went back and had a look. I was like, what did I actually give the the original Smile movie? And I know you gave it 8.6. But I think it was actually before we started giving movies a rating every single episode, so I couldn't find my rating in the podcast. So I might as well throw out a rating for that one as well. I'm going to give the first movie 5 out of 10. And I'm going to give this one 4 out of 10. 4 frowns out of 10, or 4 really badly done smiles out of 10. Like I said, it just feels like a total cash grab, this movie. It's just to keep the money coming in. They didn't do anything new. It was just almost the exact same movie, but on a grander scale, and like a famous person as the protagonist. And like I said, I feel like they did a better job in the first one of showing the character unraveling and sort of going crazy, and with the whole things that they think are happening, and then there's sort of being like a retcon, or none of that actually happened. Like, I feel like even in the first one that was done so much better. And I'd probably give this a higher score if I didn't find that to be just such a slap in the face. So I'm gonna give this 4 frowns out of 10.
Fair. I will say too, I felt the first one was paced a lot better. This one felt so much longer, and yes, it was longer in runtime, but I don't know, the first one, it was like, okay, scary sequence, and then here's part of the narrative. Oh, another scary sequence, here's another part of the narrative. This one felt like everything was bunched up at once, and then nothing happens. Oh, jump scare, jump scare, jump scare, nothing happens. Like, it needed to be a bit more consistent, it needed to be a bit more even, but they could have also taken out 20 minutes from Smile 2.
Yeah.
And it would have felt a bit better paced.
Yeah, I liked the narrative side of it, of like the pop star, rise and struggle. That was good. It was just very like pulled apart, so you weren't getting like the second part of her breakdown till like 30 minutes later. It wasn't like, it was very like spread out for what you want to watch it for.
Yeah. And I mean, the like super pop fan in me does have plot holes with Smile 2, and I mean there's plot holes in Smile 1 as well, but this one, from the pop star point of view, there is no way she would have just been free to do everything on her own. She would have been surrounded by like a whole team of bodyguards 24/7. I mean, Britney Spears talks about it all the time, so do all these other celebrities, where they're like, especially the event where she was accosted by that fan during the meet and greet session, she would have been pulled away straight away by a team of security guards, and everything would have been cancelled. So I'm like, why is this the way it is? But I know it's a movie. Yeah. But it's just things like that.
Yeah.
I want you to stop getting hysterical over nothing.
BP and Coop, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Anytime. Now, listeners, we've also covered the first Smile movie, which we've put into our Versus episode, where we compare Smile with Truth or Dare. So check that one out. We have also some very strong opinions about those two movies. We've also got other episodes coming up, including Speak No Evil, the US remake, but also check out our previous episodes where we talk about Final Destination, all the way to Scream, Chucky, you name it, we've got it. Also follow us on TikTok at Complete Guide to Horror. And if you hated this episode,